Okay, so have we let everyone in or do we need to wait for the YouTube thing?
It's just 1 second.
Sure.
There we go. We're good.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order as people join us, which is fine. We have a quorum. First order of business is to review the minutes from the April meeting. Anybody have any comments? If
They look
not,
fine.
good, thanks, David. Thank you. I'll take a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll
Second?
I'll
Thanks,
second.
Andre.
Yep.
Why don't you just call the roll? I think that'll be a lot easier than trying to do hands and eyes.
Okay. So just, okay, so
Just leave me last, that's it.
okay, Paul,
Yep. I
Kevin,
Present.
wait, do you accept the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'm just going in order on my screen. David,
Aye.
Andre,
Yes.
and where's Ramona? Did we lose Ramona?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So, motion pass.
Yeah, don't forget me, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Quite all right. Yes, so the minutes have been approved. Let's go on to financial report.
Oh, let me open.
What do you want? No, you can't have my papers. That's
So
Ireland.
we had April, everybody was sent the April financial statement. Nothing major to report. Let's get to the. There was 124,000 from the enterprise grant that was spent. That was really the most significant expenditure. That is, wasn't normal expenditure. And that is pretty much it. We did get a grant disbursement last week, I believe, of 227,000.
Great.
That will show up on next month's report.
Gotcha. Any other outstanding ones you want to mention?
Not really. I mean, we have more grant disbursement that we got back in February that hasn't been expended, but it doesn't come up on here until it's expended.
Gotcha.
We're about to make some significant payments to our contractors for the Johnson Street properties. And we also just made mobilization payments for the 115 and 150 Lander. And that's going to be starting up shortly.
Okay. Any comment, discussion?
Nope.
Alrighty, motion to approve the financial report.
Motion. It's Paul.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Want to call the roll again, please, Jennifer?
Yes. Sure, I have it here. Ramona,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Andre,
Yes.
David,
No. Oh, I'm sorry, yes to this, no to
anyone?
Zeke.
Trying to write down who's here. Yeah.
All righty, moving right along to the budget. I think I
Oh,
printed that
so
out.
we had discussed the budget that was submitted, it was passed in the last meeting for submittal to the public authority reporting.
Right,
So I believe David had asked for more detail on our expenses, the operating
Right.
expenses.
Yeah,
And
I know the form was very, very basic and you filled the form out correctly and it's their form, not ours. I was just, like I said, I just asked for a little more detail going forward.
yeah, so I sent this afternoon, I don't know if you got a chance to look at it.
oh, I didn't.
Okay, I have not, if it got sent this afternoon, but we can probably bring it up the next meeting. Yeah, I'm not anticipating any major questions. It was just more for visibility than anything.
Okay, so I sent that to you. We can discuss that next time. It was not a whole lot of
That's fine.
information.
That's fine.
All righty, so we'll save budget for next month. So everybody will have a chance to really look at it.
No, I'm sorry I sent that late. I was just going back and forth with the accountants about some stuff.
That's fine.
Just one question about the budget, Jen, for the enterprise funding. What's the funding cycle for that?
So technically it ends in this June, but they're extending it to December. We're gonna do an extension.
The extension is only on expenses, right? There's no new money involved, right?
Correct. They're not giving us any more money, unfortunately.
Okay.
And we have about, after this recent disbursement we got, it's like 414,000 left in that loan. I mean, in that
Okay.
grant. We are in the process of getting a bridge loan from Leviticus to act kind of as a cushion during this time. And then we're hoping that there's going to be some state funding available that was just allocated in the state budget process for distressed properties. And we're in the process of applying for other housing grants. So
This 300,000 is for what period?
so it's from July 2021 through June 2022 is our fiscal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And those numbers were really hard to predict just because of the timing of the grant cycles and the funding of land banks as they are at the moment. But so I anticipate that to be pretty different from what I have confirmed at the moment.
Any other questions about the budget? All righty, we'll set that on for approval for next month. On to properties, new development. Anything with the house to home?
So 27 Johnston and 43 Johnston, we're plugging away. They're more than 50% complete. And they anticipate to be complete in August.
Both of them. Good.
Yeah. And, that seems to be going very well. For 150 and 115 Lander, we just got the construction permit yesterday. And like I said, we've released a mobilization payment to the contractor to be able to start up as soon as possible. So that's going well. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, Eric. Anything to add about the house to home?
I think you covered it well, Jen. Basically, both of the properties, they have completed their rough end inspections completely, and 43 Johnson's a little further ahead. They've completed all the sheetrock and taping, and I think they're sanding or painting next. And they also have new roofs. So yeah, things are moving well. That's it. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, the church lots.
So we were supposed to be on the planning board agenda for yesterday, but the engineer postponed, I guess, because he had just gotten comments.
Well, he showed up.
Oh.
Yeah, all he did was
There, I
make a
didn't see
present.
him.
I'm sorry,
Oh, I was there because I was supposed to be there.
you
So that-
were?
Yeah.
Because we looked for you. And he said he didn't expect you to be there and you weren't in the waiting room.
No, I was listening to the whole meeting.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
But
so
I-
he
But I thought they
presented,
postponed.
anyway, he presented. It's going to be cut and dry, but we have to meet again in June. But I think it's, it's real basically boilerplate kind of stuff. No concerns about anything. So I expect it'll be approved at the June meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay. And then what about 151 Liberty and the Chambers Street properties?
I don't really have anything new to discuss. I don't know if we should hold off to the next meeting, maybe when Ally's here.
True that. Yeah. And she'll be back this weekend, so we'll have plenty of time. Okay. Moving on to 104 Washington. I think Philippe's here.
We have Philippe and Charlie. If anyone-
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Gee, nice to see you again so soon.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So yeah, great news. We received the site plan approval for the project as amended and revised. We received the ARC application authorization last week, and then site plan approval last night. So this is great. We also were able to, the IDA, which is also an important component of this project, has voted to have a deviation from their universal tax exemption policy. That's a long way of saying they're interested in considering our pilot. So that's also progressing well. So things are just moving along. It's really good. Raw material prices are different today than yesterday and even the day before that. So that, of course, is a whole, can of worms that affects, everything. But now that we, have passed the sort of approval process, we can start to dig into to that and value engineering and just kind of having a better understanding of how this is all going to come together. We do want to note that late last week, we received a letter from SHPO And this is an area that we don't know a lot about, but so I don't know what this means, but it means something. Part of our funding is through home, and we've set aside 4 units to be, affordable as per their standards, and we've gotten a $500,000 award from the county for this project in particular. That requires a review as part of the secret process from SHPO. And it's a section 106 review. And they have made some recommendations with regards to the design, which kind of cut against all of the work that we did with the ARC in improving the design and getting to a place where everybody was happy. So, so we don't know what this means. And so we've got some calls into our architect. Obviously, Ally is out of town. So, who has jurisdiction? Is there flexibility with SHPO? Do we need to get some political support? We're not totally quite sure how we're going to negotiate these quote unquote recommendations, which basically are, we don't like the metal facade elements that you have. And we think that your windows are too reminiscent of an industrial building. And so we want punch outs for each window, which to me makes it look basically like the Bourne apartments, quite frankly. So, that's obviously not what we set out to build. And it's not, I think, what the community was able to, find consensus around in terms of a design. So, but, this is the state. So this is a little bit, new for us, if I'm honest. But, lots of things are new and we can still get them approved. So we just have to work through this a little bit, and we'll be in touch with Jennifer and Ally and, city government maybe, where we just kind of need to find a little bit of support to make our case. So it's a bit of a question mark there, but otherwise, we have a lot of momentum in our sales, a lot of pep in our step, and we're super excited to have this project, underway. So that's the updates. I'm happy to answer any questions. Charlie, did I leave anything out?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a separate process than the secret process. It's just called like Section 08, and it has to do with when you get federal dollars to a project that is either on a historical building or within a historical district.
I think that Ally's going to be your best bet there. It's unusual that through, in my tenure that SHPO has gotten that involved. And I agree with you, Philippe, that the renderings you've come up with, especially the windows, I see nothing wrong with those windows. You go down 2 blocks and you're into old factories and warehouses. So it certainly blends, not maybe on that block, but it blends with the community. I don't know about the metal. I haven't dealt with that so much in the historic district. So that I'm not sure of, but I have a feeling this is not going to be too complicated.
Well, from your mouth to God's ear, and we'll give Ally a call when she gets settled back in.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on this, SHPO's involvement is not because of, it's just because of the location of the building? The fact that it's in a historic district?
Yes.
Yes, and also I believe the proximity to the Washington's headquarters. Because it's weird. There's the historic district, and then there's the register of historic places. and it appears, we just haven't dug into it too much, but so it's unclear, but it's one of those two reasons.
Well, I can tell you for what it's worth, my experience with SHPO is do as much as you can to make your case and not let them beat you to the punch on that, right? Because they'll start building up the causes for all the changes they want. But if you can make a strong case, they're usually a lot easier to work with than MPS. So I would just strongly advise, if you haven't already, build up your case for why you're going in the direction you're going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kevin White, but quick question, Philippe. So you're not going for any historic tax dollars, tax credits?
No. We're gonna, we're demoing the whole building, and
Okay.
so there's nothing to preserve.
Yeah, okay.
We tried that route, but
Don't
that
tell
was
SHPO
years ago.
that. SHPO always finds something to preserve.
Yeah, that's right.
All righty. That sounds, I think that's all positive, Philippe. I don't think you're going to get too much of a hassle, but keep us in the loop anytime between now and next month if there's anything that we can do.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about 104 Washington?
Just
can't
one
wait
for
to
me.
see
I don't
those
know,
plans.
just one for
Go
me,
ahead,
and it may be premature, but at some future meeting, can we get even a high level estimation of time, goalposts, how the project plays out? I know obviously there's a lot of approvals and there's different agencies involved, and I'm not proposing that I know the answer, but I think it just might be helpful for the board to have some sense of the trajectory of the project based on where we are today.
Yeah.
And how we see it playing out on at least on a quarterly basis for the next several quarters to come.
Sure. Well, keeping the section 104 thing out of play just for now. I am hoping that now that we have a date for the public hearing on the deviation for the pilot, and we're getting positive signals from the IDA. It is conceivable that within the next quarter, there's a motion to approve the pilot as proposed. If there's some discussion that happens there, it may take a little bit longer. So I would say between 1 and 2 quarters, we should be, out of all of the approvals that we conditioned this project upon. Getting site plan approval was a major one, and the next big one is the IDA. But we've been working at that for as long as the planning board. It's just taken a little bit longer. They've had some changes there, and there's going to be leadership change there as well. So just a caveat that doesn't tend to accelerate anything. But we're in close communication and just trying to beat that leadership change so that that matter's settled and we can proceed to close.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thanks, Philippe.
Thank you.
All righty, moving right along. 143 Washington.
So we have folks here from BJH. Michael K. Joe, I believe.
Yes. Yep. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Oh, hi, Jennifer. Hi, Lisa. Hi, board members. Nice to see you all again. We have a brief PowerPoint. It's 11 slides, but it'll go quickly. We will give you a brief update, and then hopefully, we'll be ready to move forward as well. So why don't you advance the slide? And can everyone hear me fine?
Yes.
So quickly, we're just going to go over the project goals, the design as it's evolved, the project schedule, which we've actually compressed a little bit maybe, and then quickly go to the sources and uses and financing plan. And I think you can advance it again, Joe. So, no, actually, so again, our goal for this project, is to really create a mixed-use, community-oriented asset for Newburgh. We're currently focusing on restoring the existing 4-story shell and leaving ourselves the potential to build on the vacant corner. And then really it's a project that is going to be mixed, affordable, and market, but really targeted towards those in Newburgh who need housing the most. You can advance it again, Joe. So our plan has evolved in that, again, we're phasing the project. We're not going to build on the corner because, as I think we discussed a couple of months ago, the economics of Newburgh are really challenging for new construction. It can be done, but we were finding it really challenging. So what we decided to do is focus our efforts on the existing shell. We're now proposing not to do a 5th floor, partial 5th floor, but to just do the 4 floors. To do 6 units, which would be 5 studios and one 2-bedroom on the top floor. Of those 6 units, 5 would be rent regulated through the PLP program, and 1 would be free market. That would be the 2-bedroom on the top floor. And we're also moving in the direction of doing a commercial space, a very small, approximately 500 square foot commercial space on Freeman Street, Liberty Street. Sorry. Freeman Street, I've gotten confused. Federal, that's it, I'm sorry. And that would be the offices for Osborne, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then we have this idea of landscaping the corner as a garden for, for the use of residents and potentially for, at least visually for Newburgh neighbors. We're still developing that concept. We've sort of referred to it colloquially as a butterfly garden, but our architecture and landscape team is very excited about it, as am I. I plan on doing some gardening on the weekends, if so fortunate. And so again, we've talked a few times about our relationship with the Osborne Association, which is an established social service agency that operates in Newburgh currently. Osborne and we secured an ESHI commitment for 5 units of supportive housing for formerly incarcerated persons, targeting an older population. So the 5 studio units would be for Osborne. The top floor unit would be a free market. And Osborne has a plan to tenant the 5 units by partnering with Newburgh Ministries to make sure that we're recruiting from current residents of Newburgh. I think we can move on. Quickly, the floor plans, are pretty straightforward and simple. We will have on the ground floor, we will have the commercial space facing addressing Federal Street, allowing for a common backyard and not having a setback problem. Allowing a common entrance at the ground floor and 1 studio on the ground floor, some storage and mechanical space. And then the 2nd and 3rd floor will each be 1 studio each. And then the top floor will be designed as a 2-bedroom, which again, we're envisioning as free market. You can see the section. We believe we need to dig out the basement 18 to 24 inches because it's pretty low. And since the prior board meeting, or right around the time of the prior board meeting, we did go into the building with 2 contractors and plumber and some other professionals. And we were pleasantly surprised by the condition of the building, though it's a shell, but they were not, I should say we did, right? We didn't find any scary surprises. So we're feeling very good about the physical construction aspect. You can see our Hannah Dietsch's, our architect's sort of conceptual layout. And so just quickly talking about schedule, we are, and again, what we're asking from the board, either at this meeting or certainly very soon, we were in hard contract to purchase the property. We've fallen out. So we would like to request to, have the contract amended so we can be back in contract to purchase the property at the price, the appraised value. We would like to have to December 30th to obtain all the permits and close. We're indicating on the closing that we can potentially be flexible on closing if it's at the need to address needs of the land bank, or where the sale is in your budget. But we would prefer, to close with a financing package in place. So we would, close by the end of the year. We're in, we've started, schematic design. We're going to, schedule to go to the ARC very soon. We're in discussions with 2 contractors. We're going to narrow it down to our 1 contractor the next few weeks. And we think it's under a year of construction since the scope is reduced. And so we could, be operating in the first quarter of 2023. And with that, I'll turn it over to my business partner, Kay, to just talk about sources and uses and financing briefly.
Yeah, hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, as Michael mentioned, we went into the submission and proposal with different construction estimates than kind of where we landed. I think we heard on the other call, some of the other projects are having issues with rising construction costs. And I think that was part of what happened, plus just getting more refined estimates as our design advance made it clear that the economics, particularly the new construction component, wasn't going to work. There is fortunately a lot of good program options for the existing shell. The first obviously is going to be our developer equity of 10 to 15%. Then we have a construction and permanent loan through the CPC. We have been in conversations with Mary over there, who I think many of you know. We are going to be getting the PLP loan, and then we also have eShy, which is not really a source coming in, but it sure does help with the underwriting because it's immediate demand for 5 of the units. And then the shell has the historic tax credit subsidy, and fortunately in the budget, also the state increased the historic tax credit component for projects under 2.5 million to 30%. So that also helps with the project sources. And then finally, we've confirmed the 444A abatement on the existing structure, so that cuts out some of our soft costs, the need to go to the IDA for this component of the project. I mean, we're really envisioning this as 2 phases. We're very much hoping to complete a new construction portion at some point, but as you see from the floor plan or the site schematic, that we've left room for that new construction. I don't know if that was obvious, but we put the little commercial unit in the back so that at some point we can develop that butterfly garden into something else if the market requires demands, if the land bank is amenable. So I guess we're going to open it up to questions now. We really appreciate everyone's patience in listening to this presentation a few times as we really evolve the thinking. Thank you. Thank you all.
Does anybody have anything they want to see or hear more about?
Yeah, if you could just remind us the overall budget for the project. I'm curious, what the developer equity of 10% is in real dollars. So I'm just curious as to the overall budget and what your investment is outside of other grants and financial instruments.
Yeah.
You want me to
I mean,
handle-
oh, go ahead, Michael.
Sure. I mean, the developer equity and our current underwriting is, somewhere close to 600,000.
Actually, that's not quite true. I'm sorry, Michael, to interrupt. That's the initial, because we're bridging the historic tax credits. But the developer equity that stays in the deal is going to be about $200,000 because the project is about $2 million.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay, I wasn't clear on that. Okay, and then marketing the units. I know you said there's a lot of potential commitment from eShy, but the top floor unit you're confident as well in the building with the makeup of the building.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, we've been, we've been in Newburgh like multiple weekends this spring and, seeing all the activity that's going on. I've been following the market there and have been discussing with, the project with property managers and brokers. Yeah, I mean, I feel good about the demand for that. And, it's one unit and it will, be a top floor. And there's, we haven't really like looked into the, I mean, there's always the opportunity of putting a roof deck on, things like that. But, it's actually a big 2-bedroom. It's over 900 square feet. So,
Right.
So there's, I think it's going to be really nice.
Okay.
And where do you stand with your tax credit applications?
So we have a tax credit specialist on our team. They've prepared, we're informal, but we've met, our tax credit specialist and Joe has met with the SHPO officer that covers Newburgh, I think twice, to review the plans. And we've gotten the initial feedback from SHPO, and which we've incorporated into our designs. So I think we'll be prepared to file the, I think it's called the Part 1 and Part 2, pretty quickly.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments? All righty. Fine. I appreciate all the hard work. I know this has been a much more difficult development than you anticipated. So yeah, we're there for you. Let us know the next step you have to take and we'll be able to work with you.
Well, that's great.
Thank you so much. I guess one of the next steps, not immediately, but in order to close on the financing, we'll need an updated contract. I think that we're somewhat out of contract right now. I mean, we haven't bothered, I think, to formalize an extension, but at some point, we won't be able to close with the bank loan until we're in formal contract.
Yeah.
So we'll come to you when we're, I don't know, Michael, if you want to pick up.
Oh, no, I mean, I actually think we should, I think we need to get back in formal contract because now we're spending the money on, schematic and, final design and, it's there's a significant soft cost outlay. So I think we need to be in contract. And we're willing to have dead milestones and move quickly. I mean, we really do need to close in the fall. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we could probably do that if the board is okay with the new timeline and project.
Yeah, well, I think if the project's moving forward, we need to get to contract. I agree. You're not going to have any closing without a contract. So.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So.
Are you able to close without the SHPO approval?
No, we're gonna need to have a design approved. I think it'll be a requirement of CPC to understand that we have all of the sources in hand to complete the project.
No, I just ask in terms of the timeline with the SHPO approval, and then I'm assuming you need the NPS approval as well?
Yes.
And how long do you estimate that's going to take?
Should we throw up the timeline again, maybe, Joe? Because I don't have some of these dates memorized. I wish I could answer off the top of my head, but maybe Joe can help out. Don't mean to be disrespectful, but let's see. Michael, you and Joe have the dates.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you would close in the fall with that requirement.
Basically, like we're prepared to submit our Part 1 application. The Part 2 application can be submitted once we're partially through project design. We're going to take like a pretty rigorous schedule with the design development. And then from there, it takes about 2 months right now for NPS to give word back on that. So it's projected to be about mid-fall is our estimate of the timeline right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. basically it would be like towards the end of this project design phase.
All righty. So you'll be in touch as soon as you get some other documents together, and we'll get working on a new contract.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other comments or
Thank you.
questions? I guess that's a no. All righty. Thank you very much, guys. We'll move on to 39 South Miller and 38 Lander.
So just an update, the last meeting, we extended the deadline for the applications to June 1st. And we have since held 4 open houses, and have continued to get the word out, made some signs, which we had discussed at the last meeting, posted signs on the buildings. And we've gotten some more interest. You know, there was more turnout than I expected at those open houses. And we shall see who will submit. So there was someone else today that missed the open houses that wanted to go see it. And so we won't really have any of those applications till the next meeting.
Hey, Jen, I know someone that's interested in 39 South Miller. They said that they couldn't find the RFA on the website, that it takes you to some other site. Do you know if you can access it from the website, or is she mistaken?
It should be, we can check the links, but it should be working.
I didn't check. I'm just going on what she had mentioned to me.
I mean, someone could always reach out to us if they have an issue like that.
Well, can somebody check right now? Somebody in the office?
Yeah, I mean, any of us can check the website. I think
Yeah, and we'll
checking.
just continue and let us know if it pops up the way it needs to.
All right, and do you plan to have another open house for South Miller?
Well, we had 4 already, so I mean, if there's someone who really needs to see it, we can schedule a separate appointment.
They should contact you directly?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we've now spent several hours sitting outside those buildings, so I don't want to have to put staff through that if, we're not sure somebody's going to come. So if somebody really wants to make an appointment, we can set that up.
When you say that there was interest, are we anticipating, I mean, how many people showed up at the 4 open houses? 5, 10, 50? Just curious.
I would say like 15. I don't know. The 2 times that I was there, there were like 5 each at the building that I was at.
Got it.
There,
And these are MLS listed properties for us?
no,
No.
no. We're just doing it on our own.
Got it.
And there is also a possibility that if there's not interest, or if there isn't, a viable application for either of them, that we could put them into our home ownership program if we get the funding that we're anticipating.
Right.
And they would be closer to like single family homes. We could add them into the mix of the homes that we're going to be hopefully renovating in the next year.
Got it.
And that's the same goes for, we had discussed doing an RFP for 128 Du Bois and 140 Chambers that are larger buildings, more like 3 units. And I do, now that I want to find out more about the funding, because those might be needed to also roll into the home ownership program, because there might be a need to have like buildings that we have right now in our inventory that we can use. So I think we should hold off at least until next month when we have more information about that. There's not really an urgent need. In terms of enterprise funding, they do want us to have by December a plan for all of the buildings that were in this work plan, which includes all of these really. And so I think, we'll be fine in terms of that. I think things will become clear in the next couple of months.
And just, Jen, if I might, in terms of, maybe it goes into the other category of the agenda, but it might be helpful for the next meeting to send out a kind of updated property inventory, property that's still in our name, kind of what stage of the process it's in. It's in an RFP stage, it's MLS listed. We're going to close on this property on July 15th. These 4 properties we haven't acted on yet. I think it just would be helpful to kind of refresh and revisit that.
Yeah, it's a pretty short list these days.
No, I understand, but even so.
Definitely provide that, yeah.
That's a
And then-
great idea, David.
Yeah, and then to your point about it being a short list, I know sometimes we, historically have gotten into a chicken or egg scenario with the city where we want to wait to make sure we have funding before we, apply or speak to them about more properties, but we also want to make sure we don't miss out. So is there sort of like an expectation over the next 60 to 120 days on what we should be doing with the city? Are there certain properties we've identified? Is there a certain quantity of properties we want to raise up to in our inventory? Because it's a short list now. I mean, some of them are strategic, some of them in terms of the decision making, some is financial. Obviously, we have to have the wherewithal. We don't want to acquire a bunch of properties and then not be able to act on them. So maybe at the next meeting or in July, if we want to have maybe a broader discussion around, here's the inventory, here's a realistic inventory list, here's some properties, here's some dialogue we have with the city. The stuff on the agenda today is important, obviously project by project, we need the updates, but I think we haven't really kind of done had a more broad discussion in several months now about where we stand, where we're going, and what's realistic. So I think it would be important to revisit that, either the next meeting or if we need to wait till July, if other things have to materialize. But I think it's important that we keep that context in the conversation rather than just simply have the agenda be a tactical list of project by project update and go to the next and then not really kind of discuss strategy beyond that.
Right. Yeah, and we have all those discussions like with staff, and sometimes it doesn't
I'm sure.
arrive here, but I
Yeah.
think that's very good. The city seems to have, been in terms of transferring property, there's been a little bit more of a pause because of obviously like the foreclosure moratorium, the disposition policy has been amended. But I think now we're, at a place where that conversation can start. And also I failed to mention in the beginning, I just found out minutes before the meeting that we were approved for the Dyson Foundation grant.
Oh, great.
To pay for
That
most
is
of
great.
the strategic planning. And so that can also, that will also be, a big part of the strategic planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great to get started on that.
Great.
And
Thank
Jen,
you.
when is our annual meeting?
July or August.
It might be, I'm assuming you have this on the agenda anyway to have, I think what David's talking about is sort of an update and overview of where we stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a comprehensive review of the past year's property acquisition and disposition.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it, and I think the annual meeting's a fine place to do it, but I want to make sure as board members, we feel a little more connected to some of those conversations that maybe you're having, with staff.
And we're going to talk, Diana's going to present the work that she's doing with these interns on our interactive mapping that will also kind of help tell the story of what we've done and the impact that we've had. So that I think will be useful. The only other property I had mentioned here was 44 South Miller, which is a demo, and we're still waiting on our engineer to provide a plan. We were told this week that he's prioritizing this week, so we shall see.
Okay. Thank you.
So Diana was going to present a little bit on what she's been doing. Also about the AIV. On AIV, we had some events. We're having some events coming up, and the work that she's doing with the interns on the mapping.
Yeah, so actually we've been working with interns now this spring. There's 2 of them, as I had mentioned, and one actually was awarded the PKG fellowship from MIT, which is allows her essentially to be working full time for 6 weeks for us this summer. And what we're really excited to do is take the work that she's developed, which essentially is we're using ArcGIS story websites to integrate all of the data that we have currently in our property tracking into an interactive map. So exactly what you're saying, David, will show, essentially, we have maps now that show everything from affordability to like a heat map that shows where we've spent our money. And it really helps visualize all this information and will help us strategize sort of where we want to invest in the future. And things that we haven't included in the map, like potentially could be added, like other surrounding vacant properties or things like that. And taking your notes now from what the board is interested in seeing, I can definitely relay that to the interns. And so she will be starting intensively on this sort of new, we're trying to shift a lot of the data that she's doing. At first, it was sort of going to be just a simple map, but now that I've seen what she's capable of and sort of what this software is capable of, we're really going to try to backload these maps with a lot of different types of data. So it will probably work out just in time for the annual meeting to have these maps presentable to you all in a format that will actually also be a tool. So we've been publishing yearly reviews and other types of documents that have sort of been just printed matter or, things that are more static, but this is actually something where people can either search for a property, click on the property, it will pull up data about that property, everything that we have from, say, Orange County propertydata.gov, but also information about what the land bank's work has been, what stage it is in the process of building preservation, if it has been sold, who it was sold for, what program, et cetera.
Good.
So it's really going to be a robust tool, which is really exciting. I don't want to take up too much time now because I know the meeting's extended, but perhaps we could schedule a little time next meeting where I could actually walk everybody through the website, Jen, just because I
That
feel like
would
there
be
was
great.
multiple presentations this time around. So
Yeah.
don't want to take up too much time.
That
But
was
yes,
good.
AIV has another presentation. We've had events. It's sort of wrapping up. We extended the season from last year because of the complications of COVID to this year, and it's ending this May. We've had an artist do a sonic walking workshop along the Newburgh's waterfront and Cossack Creek. And we'll actually be having a performance tomorrow evening at the Fullerton Mansion, where a collaboration of 2 artists that are doing a collaboration found one of Willie Fullerton Jr., who is William Fullerton's son, one of his compositions, and they've reworked it. One of the artists is a percussionist and the other is a visual artist, and they've designed a xylophone based off of this tune, and she will be performing three times tomorrow evening in the Fullerton Mansion for this installation. And there's some other, one of the artists is in town right now working on a pinhole camera in one of our buildings. Yeah, and she's a photographer and a PhD actually, who just released a book on self-representation and is interested in this idea of the vacancy in these buildings, also having a sense of presenting a sense of identity through each of the buildings themselves, and the building sort of a selfie of the building through this pinhole camera. So that's one of the projects that's also will be released in the next month. Vernon, I'm also working with Vernon Byron, and Vernon will be creating a work that will be a scrim that will interact with sort of 115 Landers Street facade during its construction. So it'll be a scrim that mirrors the common construction scrims, but it has imagery of the neighborhood and the property overlaid on it. So that's also very exciting and will be installed over the summer. So lots of stuff going on. Sorry to be so quick on it, but
That's
all
great.
of this is announced on our website as well, and on our Instagram feeds. So thanks.
Yeah, and I hope folks can come out tomorrow night to the Fullerton Mansion.
Yeah,
if
I've
you're
got to write
around.
that down right now.
The performances are 4:30, 5, and 5:30 p.m.
Great. Thank you, Diana.
Yep.
Hey, Jen, just going back to 44 South Miller for a second. The last discussion, I think the building was slated for demolition, and then you said the engineer said that they might be able to save the building.
Right.
Where are we with that now? Or is that still
Well,
being?
we've been waiting for the engineer to provide a plan on how to do that. So we've had 2 engineers now tell us that they think that they can save the shelf. But we haven't, the first engineer never provided a plan, and now we've been waiting a long time for the second engineer to provide one. But so that we're just kind of in this holding pattern with that right now. But
So what's the next steps on this? How is the decision made?
well, I think we just have to see what their report says and what they're proposing, and to see how much interior demo. I mean, I think what the original structural engineer, who was a third one, who we had said, in thinking that the demo would make the most sense, was that the cost of doing this type of demo, because the whole interior is completely collapsed, is greater than putting a new building on that site. But and also that it's a very dangerous type of demo because of the way the floors have collapsed for the workers. So but if this new engineer can provide a detailed plan that is cost effective, that is not, we have a certain amount of grant money to do the demo. And so we have to see, how all of that plays out, and if it makes sense to do that. But being that it's a brick structure and it's attached to the neighboring building.
It's tough.
Imagine it's a challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious about how we were going to come to a conclusion on that.
Yeah, it's just been really dragged out. It's been hard to get engineers and architects and others to, everybody's really busy. So yeah, we are hoping to get a clearer sense of that in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have to do some kind of pricing estimate.
Okay. All right. Anything else, South Miller? Any other business right now? As you are all well aware, Joe Donat will be leaving the city. I think it's a big loss, but I'm not calling the shots. I don't have any idea of what his next move will be. So I think it's just going to be wait and see who was appointed new city manager, etc. But I just want to say for the record that I appreciated what time he could devote in this pandemic year to the land bank and how much work he did for the city. And one other kind of new bit of information you may be familiar with the new bonus credit plan that the city of Newburgh is instituting to help people who live here in the city be able to afford properties here in the city. They're giving it its first, well, it's not a test drive, it's an actual, they have 2 properties that they are running by the city council tomorrow night at their meeting to choose one of 2 candidates to purchase the home. I know we've been tossing around, how do we incentivize long-term residents to be able to buy? I am very hopeful that this new category and points value thing the city's starting is successful, because there's no reason why we can't piggyback on something similar in trying to get city of Newburgh residents to be able to buy.
Well, we do have that in our current applications. It's rather than a percentage bonus system that the city is proposing, we have a point system. But we do give priority to Newburgh residents and other categories that are pretty similar to what the city has just come up with.
Good.
But we can look at, it might make more sense to use their percentage system.
Well, let's test it out.
Yeah.
Let them be the guinea pigs.
Yeah, Lisa, I think that's part of the new disposition policy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we're also hoping to, maybe set aside some of the rescue funds that we just recently got You know, we also did a workshop this past Saturday with the Leviticus group. And that was really good in terms of putting together or adopting the housing policy plan so that we can move forward. So we have a set of goals that we want to, you know, get done in the next 6 months with regard to housing and affordable housing in the city of Newburgh. So that's our priority. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I would suggest you go to, I think it's on the Planning and Development website, webpage, and open it up. If not, I can forward you the plan. It's a complete plan now, and it's something that, you know, we're going to be working with. So, you know, any questions also, maybe, you know, we can talk to LA about it as well.
You know, one of the issues that comes up with the properties that the city's listing is that, you know, in this market, people are offering far more than the maximum price. And so let's say, for instance, you have a property listed for 200,000 and you take all of those bonus plans into consideration. If everyone bid at the max, then that makes a difference. But if someone comes in with the offer of 300,000, say, then the bonus plan doesn't do any good. And in this market, people are bidding over the asking price and they're knocking Newburgh residents out of the competition.
That's
So
true.
Yeah, and we're taking that into consideration as well, Kevin. That's a very good point. You know, we just had a house that recently sold up in the Heights that's actually right next door to me. That's got the $1 million view, and you know, people were lined up. On top of, you know, bidding, it did go to the highest bidder and sold for, I believe it was $350. You know, they had to come up with another $375 just to get the house, you know, in, they're gonna have to do major renovation on that house. So when you take all of that and you know, hopefully there won't be any other houses that are going to require that much money up front to do the renovation. You know, it's just, it is something that's a good point that we're gonna be, you know, looking at and taking into consideration.
I just don't know how you can resolve that because the city wants to make as much money as they can.
Absolutely.
So you have to turn down a bid like that, right? But then how do we keep these homes affordable for local residents? If someone can, I mean, think about the example you just gave, and I'm actually familiar with that property.
Yeah.
If you have it, if someone bid, I think that was listed at 200.
No, I believe it was, well, I think it was listed at actually 250.
Right, so someone came in and offered 350 on a 250 property, and then they have to do, you said 375,000 in renovation. So we now have almost a $750,000 home.
Right.
I think this was, I don't know if they're gonna do multifamily or single family, but I mean, just think about that.
It's a 3-family actually, so you know it makes sense because it's gonna be able to help with the taxes that are gonna be pretty high. But you know, we are taking that into consideration. That was an unusual property, I think. You know, the other city-owned properties, there's not a lot left, but what we do have, I think, are going to be more reasonable to work with, I think, for city residents, and hopefully won't cost as much to renovate. And we're also looking at other programs where we can provide some of that upfront cost to do some of those renovations as well.
Right, and I don't want to keep harping on this, but I'm not sure how this is addressed because what happens as a result of this, if I have to put that much money into renovation, then my rent costs are going to be astronomical. And that further prices people out of the market. So we have a problem on both ends. You have local residents that are not going to qualify for the purchase or the renovation loan. And then once the property is renovated, local residents can't afford what the rents are going to be. This is a huge problem for this city. And there's a lot of rumbling taking place in this town about this exact thing.
Right.
I think also they're in this new disposition policy. They do have like a carve out for transferring properties to the land bank and Habitat and other affordable housing developers. So at least there's a pipeline for, because that isn't our model to make the most amount of money necessarily. And, you know, hopefully we can do more of the affordable home ownership projects that we've been doing to enable people to not, also so that they can get a renovated turnkey property and not have to buy something that needs a total renovation.
Yeah, well, my other concern that comes out of that is, the city seems to be holding on to the more valuable properties.
Mhm.
And so what's our pipeline looking like in terms of getting properties from the city?
Right. I have to disagree with that, Kevin. That property, as soon as we got out of litigation, immediately went on to the market. We put it out. It took.
I mean, in terms of turning the properties over to the land bank.
Oh, okay.
As
Right.
opposed
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
Yeah.
city.
Well, yeah, we have to have a conversation with Ellie. I started that conversation, and she's open to that discussion and has some ideas in mind. The land bank.
One of the
I
things
think
that
this should
I've
be a
been hearing,
conversation that we have at the land bank, because I don't, again, I don't do a lot of thinking about this, but I just don't see how the city resolves this problem, but the land bank can, right? We're going to have a cap on purchase prices. I think we can do a lot to keep homes affordable for local residents. The city's in a totally different situation, and I'm not knocking what they're doing. You should make as much money as you can. But at some point, someone has to be considerate of the impact that you're having on this community. In terms of like I said, home ownership is one huge impact that we're having, the cost of that, and then the cost of rental unit.
yeah,
I think the land bank can play a big role in helping to address this issue.
I agree.
it's
Well said.
it's a tough nut. There's no question. I mean, how long we've tried to get these home ownership, but the criteria, even if the price isn't high, the other criteria, the mortgage, the taxes, all play a big role in this. I think the city's new disposition with the percentages and points, I think what I'm hearing is that generally they're aiming for more affordable properties. Let's say a house goes into foreclosure at, in rem tax sale or whatever, and 135 would be the starting point. And then depending on how many credits a city resident could get. And rather than looking at some of these, that are already starting with a 3 in the price, just some of the more conventional homes around the city. But we have to see what stock is really available. And yeah, I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But I hear you loud and clear. If you're going to buy a nice home and it's got a view and you're going to fix it up, then you have to charge, exorbitant rents, and you're going to get them because there's plenty of people who want to pay that who don't live here.
Yeah. I mean, we're hoping that there'll be more funding from the state to do affordable homeownership and rehabs, and, in the upcoming infrastructure bills on the federal level that will hopefully, make it its way to us. There's going to be more and more of a need, the Hudson Valley in general is dealing with, has people are talking about it as being a tsunami of evictions coming up, foreclosures. And so I think it is important that we're prepared to address that. And I know that the land bank has created tools to really, that have been successful in addressing those exact situations. We have to, keep our eyes on that as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad discussion that we're so many factors could consider, and there are certainly obviously no easy answers to any of this. So I think collaboration is going to have to be a big part of it. Us, Habitat, the city, the major players in housing. So, all right, to be continued. Do we have anything else that anybody wants to talk about right now?
I do not.
No? No? You ready to call it a day? Ready to adjourn?
Those are very different things for some of us.
Oh, me too. Okay.
Thinking for myself anyway.
Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And thank you. All righty, we'll call the meeting at a close at 4:17.
Okay, thanks,
And
everybody.
The
Thank
next
you.
meeting is June 16.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day. Take